Ladies, gentlemen, pronouns, lend me your ears. Crazy Kid back for a different react. This time here, we're going to take a look at another Gen X video. Being Gen X myself, this kind of applies to me. And I kind of find it funny, lamenting and remembering some of the things that happened in the past and how things were in the past. This video here is called People from Gen X Share These 7 Hidden Strengths. It's by a channel called Psychology Unexplored. And I haven't seen this video. It just came up in my feed. And, the way I look at it, when it comes to the good old days of, when growing up the way we did, some of it was funny. And, I kind of like to bring back some of the funny stuff. So let's see what this video is all about.
There's a generation everyone forgot to talk about. They're not boomers, they're not millennials, they're not Gen Z. They're the ones who came home to empty houses after school, who learned to solve problems before Google existed, who watched their parents get laid off after decades of loyalty and quietly decided corporate devotion was a scam. Gen X. Born between 1965 and 1980, they're sandwiched between two louder generations. And because they're not out here demanding attention or explaining themselves on social media, most people assume they don't have much to say. But here's the truth. Gen X built a specific set of strengths that neither the generation before nor after them developed, because they were shaped by a world that doesn't exist anymore. A world where you couldn't Google the answer, where your parents weren't hovering, where you had to figure it out or stay stuck. If you're Gen X, or you recognize these patterns in yourself, these 7 strengths are probably already operating in the background of everything you do.
They're operating in the background of everything that we do every single minute of every single day. And let me tell you, when it came to coming home to an empty house, even if it was just for 20, 30 minutes, maybe sometimes a couple hours, maybe 4 hours, we just dealt with it. It was just stuff that we did, we dealt with it, we moved on. Like, it was just a way of life for us.
Already operating in the background of everything you do. You just never stop to name them. Strength 1. Self-reliant. Gen X were the latchkey kids. They came home to empty houses because both parents were working, or because single-parent households were rising and there was no other option. No one was there to help with homework. No one was monitoring screen time or scheduling playdates. No one was micromanaging their afternoon. They just figured it out, made their own snacks, did their own homework, solved their own problems, entertained themselves. And that built something specific, the ability to function independently without needing someone else to guide, validate, or rescue them.
And when it came down to it, our self-reliance, that unnerves a lot of people, because nowadays, they're like, oh, let's do a team building thing. Gen X are like, no, let's not. Let's just handle this ourselves, because that's the way we're most comfortable handling things. We don't do team building. We don't want a team. We don't want to be part of the team. We just want to be, give me a task, I'll take care of it. Leave me alone.
This isn't the same as millennial or Gen Z independence. Those generations had Google, they had forums, they had YouTube tutorials and Reddit threads. Gen X had none of that. If they needed to know something, they had to find a book, ask someone in person, or trial and error their way through it. So when life throws something unexpected at them now, they don't freeze. They don't immediately crowdsource the answer. They just handle it, not because they're tougher, because they've been doing it since they were 8 years old. Strength.
Yeah, and to have to deal with those kind of things, adult things, when you're like pre-adolescent, adolescent, and into your, you know, pre-adult period, having to deal with those things like for, you know, literally a couple decades, that was tough on us, but we dealt with it. We just, we knew that if we didn't deal with it, it was never going to go away. So we just dealt with stuff.
2. Self-taught. Gen X lived through one of the biggest technological shifts in human history, and they mastered both sides of it. They grew up analog, rotary phones, handwritten notes passed in class, no internet, no cell phones. If you wanted to reach someone, you called their house and talked to whoever picked up first. If you wanted to meet up, you made a plan and showed up. If they didn't show, you waited or left. No text updates, no running 10 minutes late. Then everything changed. Email, smartphones, social media, remote work, cloud storage, apps for literally everything. And Gen X learned it all. Not because they're naturally tech savvy, because they had to be. They were in the workforce when everything went digital. They couldn't opt out, couldn't just say, I'm not good with computers, and expect to keep their job.
No, we just had to deal with whatever came at us. And we did that all the way through our childhood. So it became like second nature for us. And when it come to calling somebody's house and then their father answering the phone, you didn't say, yo, is Nikki there? No, you get a hang up. You get that. You get the dial tone. Then you call up again. Hey, yo, is Nikki there? You get the dial tone again. Until you learned how to actually speak with respect to their parents, you were going to get the dial tone every time the father or mother picked up the phone. You were not going to get to speak to the person you were looking for.
So they learned Word, then Excel, then email, then smartphones, then Zoom, then Slack. They watched millennials and Gen Z grow up as digital natives fluent in technology from birth. But Gen X had something those generations don't. They understand both worlds. They can have a face-to-face conversation without checking their phone. But they can also navigate any software you throw at them. They remember phone numbers, but they also know keyboard shortcuts. They can read a room in person, but they can also read tone in an email. This dual fluency makes them incredibly effective. They don't romanticize the past or fear the future. They just learn what needs learning and move forward. They prove something important. You don't have to be born into a system to master it. You just have to be willing to learn.
Now, when he says we don't lament on the past, we do kind of remember the past just as a fond reminder of, you know, how we dealt with things in the past to keep us moving forward. And, you know, we lament on the past because some things that happened in the past kind of happen again. So we have to go back to that file folder of things that have happened in similar situations so that we can actually quickly move on from the situation that we're in. So, yeah, we do kind of lament on the past a little bit, but it's selective.
Strength 3. Bullshit detector. Gen X grew up skeptical. They were raised during Watergate, watched corporate America betray their parents' loyalty with mass layoffs, and came of age during the grunge era when cynicism was the default setting. They learned early, don't trust the marketing, don't believe the hype, question authority, so they have a finely tuned bullshit detector that younger generations are still developing. They can spot performative authenticity from a mile away. They know when someone's selling them something disguised as advice. They see through corporate jargon and influencer speak. They're not bitter about it, they're just not buying it. This makes them excellent at cutting through noise. They don't get swept up in trends just because everyone else is.
Yeah, and a lot of the times when you see a Gen X catch something somebody's doing, you're gonna hear a sarcastic remark or a snide comment or something inappropriate that actually is kind of appropriate to the level of BS that the other party is putting forth. We can smell a skunk from a mile away. We can see You know, we could see somebody trying to sell us something that we really don't want to buy. And we don't buy things that aren't tested, tried, and proven to last forever.
They don't follow gurus without questioning the motive. They ask the uncomfortable questions. They wait for proof. They trust their gut when something feels off. And in a world where everyone's trying to sell you something, that's a rare and valuable strength. Strength 4. Unfiltered. Here's a big one people don't talk about. Gen X learned to handle conflict face to face. They didn't have the option to subtweet. Couldn't send a passive-aggressive text and then block someone. Couldn't post a vague story and wait for someone to ask what's wrong. If you had a problem with someone, you dealt with it in person, or on the phone, in real time, and that built a completely different skill set. They learned to regulate their emotions in the moment, to have hard conversations without a script, to read body language and tone, to sit in discomfort without an escape hatch.
And a lot of the times, when you had a conflict with somebody, or you found out that somebody had lied to you, you bottled that down until you got back with that person, and then you hashed it out. And that's how Gen X dealt with things. We just, compartmentalized everything that we did. And then when those particular situations came available to hash out those issues, we pull that box out, we open it up, and then we deal with the situation. We compartmentalize just like you compartmentalize your computer to say that this is the kind of files I want on this folder. This is the kind of files I want on this folder. We do that internally.
This doesn't mean they're all great at conflict, but they have more practice doing it directly than generations raised on digital communication. They're less likely to let things fester, less likely to avoid confrontation until it explodes, more likely to just say the thing and deal with the fallout. And in workplaces and relationships, that clarity is gold. Strength 5. Work to live. Gen X watched their boomer parents dedicate their entire lives to companies that laid them off without hesitation. They saw the loyalty, the 60-hour weeks, the missed family dinners, the deferred dreams, all for a corporation that didn't care, and they quietly decided, not me. Gen X were the original work-life balance advocates, not because it was trendy, because they saw what happened when you didn't have it.
Yeah, we decided that, hey, if I don't get my time at home with my family, this job ain't for me. I need that balance. We're all about the yin yang of life. You can't always just have the one without the other. It's got to go together, and it's got to peacefully coexist. The work-life balance, it's huge for Gen X.
They set boundaries before boundaries became a buzzword. They prioritized their kids' soccer games over overtime. They took vacations. They didn't answer emails at midnight just to prove dedication. This wasn't rebellion, it was survival. They understood something younger generations are still learning. Your job will replace you, but your life won't wait. So they built lives outside of work. Hobbies, friendships, families, identities that weren't tied to their job title.
Yeah, and we figured out early on that you aren't your job title, and your job title isn't you. We figured out that you have to live independently of your job title. There has to be something else outside that. And if you don't have something else outside that to let off the steam, the job title will consume you. And it'll basically shorten your life.
And when layoffs came, when industries shifted, when careers ended, they had something else to stand on. Strength 6. Resourceful. Gen X grew up in a world of physical limits. 3 TV channels. If nothing good was on, you dealt with it.
Yeah, three TV channels, and parents sitting on the couch, kids sitting on the floor, And the reason why that dynamic was so important is because when the channel needed to be changed or when the volume needed to be adjusted, hey, get up there and do that. And then the kid would just reach up and do it. It's the way it worked. We were the TV remote. We didn't have a remote control until I think it was like the mid 80s. We didn't have really a remote control to control the TV from the couch.
Blockbuster only had 2 copies of the new release and both were rented. You picked something else or went home empty-handed. Your bike broke. You didn't get a new one. You fixed it or asked someone who knew how. Wanted to hear a song? You waited by the radio with your finger on the record button, ready to capture it on cassette tape.
Comment down below if you've done this. I've done this so often it wasn't funny.
Entertainment wasn't infinite, products weren't disposable. If something broke, you fixed it because replacing it wasn't always an option. That built a completely different relationship with stuff. Gen X learned to make things last, to repair instead of replace, to improvise when the thing they needed wasn't available. They made mixtapes, built skateboard ramps in their driveways, turned basements into recording studios with whatever gear they could scrape together. This was the generation of zines, garage bands, and DIY culture. Not because it was trendy, but because professional tools and platforms weren't accessible yet.
Or they were just extremely expensive. DIY program stuff. I remember back in the day, my dad was a handyman. He went around and helped people do little DIY projects here and there. And if I really wanted to spend time with my dad when I was not at school, I went with him and I learned that stuff. And, it was the idea that, I'm going to need this later on in life anyway. So I may as well learn it now, learn how to do it properly, and learn how to do it quickly. So this way here, I could be what I've learned as a quote from a psychologist was energetically lazy is what he called me. I was energetic to get the job done quickly, properly, so I wouldn't have to do it again, and so that I had more time, more free time for me. So, ambitiously lazy or energetically lazy was one of the quotes that a lot of Gen Xers could actually relate to.
So they built it themselves. That mentality stuck. Today, when something breaks, their first instinct isn't replace it, it's can I fix this? When they don't have the perfect tool or setup, they don't wait for ideal conditions. They work with what's there. When budgets are tight or timelines are impossible, they don't complain about what's missing. They figure out how to make it happen anyway. They're not precious about needing the newest model, or the name brand, or the exact right equipment. They just need something that works.
We were the generation that had to have the latest greatest toy, the most expensive bicycle, the most expensive car, or anything like that. Hey, if it got you from here to there, that was your transportation. If you had the money to buy the best quality outfit for computers, then you bought something that you figured was going to last. We didn't care if it was the most money. We just cared how long it was going to last. That was the most important thing for Gen X.
And if it doesn't work, they'll make it work. This makes them incredibly valuable when resources are limited or situations go sideways. They don't freeze when conditions aren't perfect. They just build the solution with whatever's in front of them. Strength 7. Secure. Here's the one that defines Gen X more than anything else. They're the forgotten middle child of generations. Boomers dominated the conversation for decades. Millennials and Gen Z have been the focus of every think piece, every marketing strategy, every cultural shift for the last 15 years.
And a lot of the reason for that is when we were growing up, our parents went with the philosophy that children should be seen and not heard. We kept that going through our teenage years and our young adult life years. And now people are starting to talk about us. We're all like,
Gen X, overlooked, and they're fine with it. They don't need the spotlight, don't need constant validation, don't need everyone to know what they're doing or thinking at all times. They just do the work, raise the kids, pay the bills, build the thing, without posting about it, without needing applause. This isn't bitterness, it's freedom. They learned early that external validation is unreliable, that you can't build a life based on other people's attention. So
yeah. And also at the same time, confidence isn't built by having everybody else's approval on things. Confidence is built by you doing something, it working out, or not. If it doesn't work out, you've dealt with the consequences and then you adjusted and then redone something to make it work. That's how confidence is really built. It's not built by how other people look at you. It's built by how you look at yourself.
they built internal measures of success instead. Did I do it well? Does this align with my values? Am I proud of this? That's enough. This makes them steady, consistent, unbothered by trends or public opinion. They're not trying to be seen. They're just trying to live well. If you're Gen X, or if you see these traits in yourself, understand this clearly. You're not jaded, you're not checked out, you didn't give up. You just learned to operate in a world that didn't hand you answers, didn't celebrate you constantly, and didn't promise you stability. You're self-reliant, you adapt without drama, you detect bullshit, you handle conflict directly, you work to live, you're resourceful, you operate without applause. These aren't survival tactics, they're strengths that shaped how you move through the world. So when someone mistakes your independence for indifference, or your boundaries for coldness, or your skepticism for negativity, remember what you actually built. You didn't need the spotlight to become capable, you just needed to figure it out on your own. Which strength hit hardest? Drop it in the comments, and drop your birth year too. Gen X, or just raised like one.
Alrighty, final thoughts. You know, that hit home. I got all 7 of them. And, you know, there's another strength that he forgot to mention was the strength of sarcasm. Like Gen X, we're the most sarcastic group on the planet. And I'm not saying that because I'm Gen X and because I'm very sarcastic. I'm saying that because when we were growing up, it was almost like a contest. Who could bring out the most inappropriate joke about a situation that was happening and unfolding right in front of us? That's what we called entertainment. That's what kept us laughing through the hardships. And the hardships is what we made fun of. And if it wasn't for all them hardships, we wouldn't have the sense of humor that we had now, that we got now. And let me tell you, I can talk to some Gen Xers, and we could have the most sarcastic conversation for hours on end, and it would be fun to listen to. But at the same time, there'd be a whole lot of people in today's time that would get their fifis hurt, and whoever I was having a conversation with about sarcasm, we wouldn't care. So let's have a conversation in the comment section below. Which ones of these hit you the most? Which ones of these apply to you the most? Let's have a conversation about that kind of stuff down in the comment section below. Agree to disagree. This is what the psychology of the Gen Xers are. But you know, I'll leave a link to the video in the description box and the channel, so you guys can go and check out some more of their stuff, and it's much worth it uh, to check out some more of their stuff. It really gives you the inner workings on how people operate, how they're thinking, what they're thinking about, and how to deal with those kind of people. It may reshape the way that you address people. So, all these kind of things are kind of helpful in dealing with, the changing of life as it's going and the way things are headed. It may help you, figure things out a little bit quicker. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because we love having new people join our community of people who love everything entertaining. So until we get to the next one, my friends, I wish you all peace, love, safety, and happiness.
Until we meet again, check out my other video or my playlist of videos.